Welcome inside the Raiders Training Camp podcast presented by SiriusXM. I am your host, Vince Sapienza, coming to you from the Intermountain Health Performance Center, the Raiders HQ. Raider Nation, we are back. We have made it. A long offseason is now a thing of the past. Pete Carroll, his first presser ahead of training camp, is now in the books. And if you weren't excited before, well, then you need to take a listen to the Raiders head coach. Expectations are sky high. To quote Pete Carroll, we're going to win a whole bunch of games. And we're going to be excited to do it, and we're going to be operating at a level that has not been seen here in Las Vegas for the Silver and Black. We are going to talk about all the storylines up and through training camp, into the preseason, roster decisions that'll be taking place over the course of this program, this series. We're going to have special guests on every episode as well. But before we get to all of that, let's get to a couple of storylines. You could have marked 10, maybe 15 different storylines for the Raiders this offseason. A absolutely transformational change in this storied franchise's history. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Geno Smith, Ashton Genty, a new contract for Max Crosby. Didn't even mention Tom Brady and the ownership group for the Silver and Black. There are a ton to talk about, but there are three at the tip of everybody's tongues, and it starts with Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, and Chip Kelly. Obviously, we know the reunion between Geno and Pete, the reunion from Seattle to Las Vegas. Are they going to be able to bring that success from Seattle to Las Vegas? The answer is a resounding yes if you ask Pete Carroll and anybody in and around associated with this organization. Now, Chip Kelly obviously brings a fun fold into it, right? A creative mind, a guy who, like Pete, likes to run the ball and do it a lot. So what is that going to look like? We obviously know Geno in the fold elevates the quarterback room from a season ago. What does that look like for the offense? In terms of a starting point, the efficiency, how quickly can they get on the same page, ramp up during training camp, and get going starting week one in Foxborough of the NFL regular season. So that is one of the top storylines going into training camp is how does Geno look? How does he command this offense? And how does he elevate not only his game here in Las Vegas, but the rest of the pieces on the offense as well? It is a young group, but it is expected to be a fun group with Brock Bowers, year two, Jacoby Myers. He doesn't drop a ball. He continues to be underrated, yet he doesn't drop passes. And then when we talk about Ashton Genty, the 6th overall pick, the Boise State back, all eyes are going to be on the running back rotation. And Pete Carroll talks about how it's going to be by committee, how he's done that for years. But Ashton Genty is the bell cow. Can he live up to the expectations, the pressure that comes with being not just a top pick, but a dynamic weapon coming from the college game and doing it in the National Football League and doing it seamlessly and right away? All eyes are going to be on this rookie class, specifically Ashton Genty. And that leads me to the third storyline. So you got Geno, Coach, and Chip. You got Ashton Genty, and then when you look at the defensive side of things, a lot of new names on that side, but it's the secondary. I don't know how many starting spots are going to be up for grabs this training camp, but there's going to be a lot of competition going around. The one position group I look at the most is the cornerbacks in the secondary. That is a young group of Eric Stokes, DeCamerion Richardson, Jacorian Bennett, and the rookie, Darien Porter. Now, Pete Carroll in his training camp opening presser said this is the most impressive group when it comes to the secondary he's ever coached. And he said that the guys up north over there in Seattle are probably going to hate him saying that. But in terms of big, athletic, and fast, the most impressive group he has ever coached. For a guy of his pedigree, for a guy of his resume, and of his credibility of being able to coach up that particular position group, that goes a long way. Now, we got to see it on the field. We got to see them do it in real time when the bullets are flying, the pads are on, and the games and the reps matter. But that is quite an ovation. That is quite a soliloquy to give ahead of training camp before we even see these guys on the field. So I am most looking forward to that competition in the secondary as well. But again, we have a lot to digest, a lot to ingest as we get set for training camp here on the Raiders Training Camp podcast presented by SiriusXM. I said we're going to have a lot of guests on this program and on this series, and kicking us off is a Super Bowl champion, a 9-year NFL veteran, former Raider. Once a Raider, always a Raider. A man who, I would say, popularized the hoodie in-game in the National Football League. He is a Raiders TV analyst. He is James Jones. James Jones joining us now on the Raiders Training Camp podcast presented by SiriusXM. And James, before we get to the 2025 iteration of the Silver and Black, what does Training Camp Eve mean to you? What thoughts and memories pour through you in your days as a wide receiver in the National Football League?
Man, it means that, you know what I mean, kiss the babies, do all the stuff you got to do. I'll see all y'all in a couple weeks because it's grind time now. Your body's about to go through something it's never really been through before. You could train all you want in the off season. You could run as many routes as you want in the off season. But until you get in the training camp and you start getting hit and grown men is pushing on you and pulling on you and all that stuff, you are not in football shape. So don't miss it. Love that it's here, though. Love that it's here for those guys. But, yeah, man, when I hear training camp, I think, oh, man, the process your body got to go through to get ready for NFL season. But it should be fun.
James, let's stay down memory lane for a minute. I know it's a little different these days with training camp. Some teams, go away. Some stay at home like the Raiders are here. But what was your go-to? What did you have to bring with you to camp that was either your reminder of why or your kind of getaway from the grind that was?
Oh man, number one, I mean, shoot, the reminder of why is you gotta provide. That's the reminder of why, you know what I mean? So, I would have pictures of my babies and all that type of stuff, the reminder of why I play the game and why I do it. And then to be honest with you, man, you gotta have the snacks, We stayed out there in Napa, so we had, the setup pretty good, but I always brought all my own good snacks and all that, man. You finna be away from home. You need all your snacks. You need all that type of stuff. Make sure you bring that. But other than that, man, the why don't change. You know why you're out there. It's some dudes that's, out there for different reasons. And not only that, it's some dudes that know they're making this team, and it's some dudes that know they're not making this team. So the mindset of different players is different.
So let's talk about the 2025 Raiders. Obviously a transformational offseason. When you talk about upgrading some of the spots, the most critical spots on a football team, the Raiders seems to have checked every single box. So as you look at this storyline leading into camp, what is the one that sticks out most to you?
Well, I'm very excited, man. Number one, I mean, it has to be the quarterback spot. I mean, you add Geno Smith, a guy that I believe has a lot of good football left in him, a guy that throws the ball with anticipation with the best of them, a guy that has a live arm, and a guy that can make some plays with his legs. So you upgrade the quarterback spot, you give yourself a true chance to go out there and compete. And we got to understand we got some good quarterbacks in our division when you talk about the Herberts and you talk about obviously the Patty Mahomes and the Bo Nix. So now we have a guy that can come in there and could put some points up and score and make some plays with his legs. I think that's going to be huge. And that's where you got to start off. I think, all these other additions we made in the offseason, really good draft, adding Genty, all that. But the main key piece is, can we get our quarterback to play at a high level? And I think Geno Smith is that guy to play at a high level and really help us stack some of these wins.
Yeah, I love that we're starting right there. Obviously, the big storyline and talk all offseason was the reunion, right, between Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. And you add Chip Kelly to that mix, and you're like, all right, How are they going to come together and things of that nature? Don't want to go too far in the past, but if you go back a year ago at this point, there was a question at the quarterback position. How much of a starting point is that for the Raiders, knowing there is no competition, the comfort and the accessibility starts from day one and has started in the last couple months?
Man, that's huge for everybody. Not only the offensive coordinator knowing that, hey, man, it's no quarterback competition. I don't got to worry about splitting reps with this guy, splitting reps with that guy. This is the guy. This is the starter. So if it's any receivers that we're our tight ends or any pass catchers we're really excited about, let's make sure we get them with our starter. Let's make sure we get them with Geno. We ain't got to worry about getting them with 3 or 4 different guys. We have our guy. We know who the starters is, and we know the system that we are trying to put around them. And I think that is huge. Coming into training camp, knowing you got your guy, knowing there's no controversy of who the starter is going to be. We're building around him. The playbook is around him. What does he do best? And let's figure out from here what position groups and players fit well with Geno Smith. And that is a huge start. Last year coming into training camp, it's quarterback competition here. You know what I mean? What does he look like in this system? He looks a little different in these plays. Now you got a guy that you're building around, and I think that's a huge start for the Raiders, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, you talk about the offense building around Geno. They're also going to be building around their new dynamic weapon. The 6th overall pick, Ashton Genty. And I remember watching you last season, post-game shows talking about, you got to run the ball. This team has to run the ball. I know you're a wide receiver. I know you love when the ball's in the air and your guys are coming down with it. But it starts and stops with running the ball. And Ashton Genty is obviously going to be the bell cow. I know Pete Carroll talked about, hey, there's going to be a lot of guys running the ball. But Ashton is the guy, is he not?
Ashton Genty is the guy without a doubt walking into the building right now. He is the guy. And not only that, he's the guy that people are going to have to understand we have to stop getting off the bus. Yes, you have Brock Bowers. Yes, you have Jacoby Myers. Yes, you have some good playmakers out there. But the guy you're going to have to stop as a defense getting off the bus, and you're going to put your game plan around, is Genty. And the Raiders need to find a way to get him going. Yes, I'm a pass catcher, but trust me, all the pass catchers know if you don't have no run game, it is going to be very, very, very hard to catch passes when these defenses is sitting in cover 2 and this defensive line is pinning their ears back and they are coming after your quarterback. So we have to get a run game going. I think Genty is the perfect guy. When you look at Pete Carroll, when he had Marshawn Lynch and he was running the football, he wants to get this run game going. And I think it will, and it's going to be huge for the play-action pass when you talk about Brock and Jacoby out there on the outside.
James, I know Ashton's no stranger to being the guy that's circled on the board, right? Everybody's going to be focused on him when you're picked as high as he is, and when you're at that position as well, getting the ball as much as you are. Does anything need to be said to him ahead of this training camp? Like if you were in this camp as a veteran, is that a guy that you put your arm around, or you kind of just let him go, see how he handles the deep end?
Well, I mean, you always going to put your arm around him and, teach him the ropes and let him know the ins and outs of the game. And, especially when it comes to game planning and all that, you want him to be sharp. You want him to play fast because you know you're going to need him. But at the end of the day, hey, bruh, if I was in the locker room with him, hey, bruh, hey, we drafted you 6th overall for a reason. All right. And we ain't drafted you 6th overall for a reason to be average out here or, you know what I mean, them not to circle you. We drafted you 6th overall because we want them to circle. We want you to be that dude. You know what I mean? Because we know if you're that guy, our offense is going to be that much better. So that's what I'll be telling them. Get your mind right. Get your cardio up. Get yourself in shape because, hey, you finna get this thing 25-plus times a game.
All right, I want to be doing my job. I want to get to the defense, but I want to be doing my job if we didn't talk a little wide receivers and this position group in particular for the Raiders. Obviously, Jacoby Myers is one of the most and continues to be one of the most underrated wide receivers in the National Football League. I know Brock Bowers is a tight end, but he's probably pass catcher number 1 on this team. Trey Tucker's another guy that really showed out during this offseason program, in my opinion. And then you get and draft 2 wide receivers, 3 if you count touchdown Tommy Mellott. So I'm curious what you see out of this position group and what kind of ceiling can this group as a team, as a committee, really get to with Geno Smith at quarterback?
I think this group right here collectively can really, really do some damage. It's all about just finding the fit. Who do we want in the slot most? Who do we want on the outside most? Who's our one-on-one opportunity guy that can go up and make some plays on the ball? And once you figure out that in training camp, I think the sky's the limit for this receiver room, especially with the ability that they had. And then you add Brock in there and you're able to move him around and put him outside and put him in different situations. I think this offense can really, really, really be good. But strictly at the receiver spot, I think we have everything you want. We have size, you got speed, you got route running ability. I think it's going to be really good for Geno throwing to these dudes out there.
The defensive line a year ago was supposed to be the backbone of this team, right? And once again, if everybody's healthy, feels like that could be the case once again. What do you see out of that group another year under Patrick Graham?
Yeah, no, I mean, number one, thank God we paid Max because he probably should have held out for some more money. He just means that much to this organization and team, the way he plays the game. But you got Mad Max out there. You get Kuntz back, who we really, really missed last year. Obviously, Wilkins starting on the PUP list, but I think he'll be back out there. But when you talk about this defensive line, if we can stay healthy, they could be one of the better defensive lines in the National Football League, starting with Max Crosby. You got 2 really good pass rushers, and you got 2 guys that could really be stout against the run, too, in Max Crosby and Kuntz. And then adding Wilkinson in there, especially when he's healthy. I mean, he's one of the top D tackles in the business. That's why we paid him that money. But we starting off on the right track. When you talk defense, you got to have defensive line, right? The secondary, the linebackers, nobody's no good if the defensive line is not good. And we are off to a good start with our defensive line, especially if they can stay healthy. So I'm looking forward to seeing Coots getting back there. Obviously, man, Max Crosby is going to do what he does year in and year out, game in and game out. And then we just got to get our big dog healthy and Wilkinson in the middle, man. And if we can do that, the Raiders going to be a scary front seven, man.
You know, James, Pete Carroll preaches, his mantra is compete, right? And there's going to be a lot of competition out there for a lot of spots. I don't know how many starting spots are necessarily up for grabs. I'm sure there's plenty of them. If you look around the offensive line, you mentioned how the wide receiver group is going to shake out by the regular season start. But when I think of competition in training camp and the 2025 Raiders, I can't help but look at that secondary, specifically at the cornerback position. I'm curious how you view that position group and the potential, because there's a lot of youth there.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of youth, and I would come into training camp and I'll play all man to man. I'll play all man to man. So first week and a half, we playing all man to man. I need to see who can cover. I need to see who can cover when we get these pads on, because that position is probably the position that's most wide open right now with a lot of questions, and that's the cornerback spot. But I will play all man to man. Who could lock up? Who could get up and cover? Because that's the game. I mean, yeah, you can sit in zone, but when you get into third down and 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 6, hey, it is man to man and who can cover. And we need to figure out who can cover early in training camp. And I think whoever can lock down on man to man and cover will have a good shot to start on this team. But that is the biggest question mark. When I come out there for training camp, I'm a wide out, but I'm looking to see who's guarding these wide receivers as well.
Yeah, you know, it's so fascinating. Eric Stokes, former first-round pick, coming over, trying to prove himself.
Packers, yes.
Trying to prove himself. And then you look at DeCameron Richardson, a second-year guy who this time last year was battling injury, so he was not able to ramp up the right way. We found out this offseason Jacorian Bennett has been playing with one shoulder for the last 3+ years. He seems to be fully healthy, but the guy everybody's talking about is the wide receiver turn corner, Darien Porter. Now, you just said you would go man-to-man to start training camp. I'm curious. James Jones is on that field, lined up against Darien Porter. What are you doing? Is it baptism by fire? How are you testing him in the most difficult ways to get the best out of him?
Well, you know what, man? Sometimes, you move these wide receivers to corners, man, and they know exactly how you're trying to attack them. They know releases. They've been at the wide receiver spot. So he might be a tough outing strictly because he knows, hey, man, if you're in a tight split, I know what you're trying to do. If you're in a wide split, I know what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? If I'm inside leverage, I know it's only a couple ways you can go. So it'll be interesting to see how he can transition to the cornerback spot. But if I am a wide receiver, yeah, I want to go up against him. I want to see what it looks like if he's really been out here training and working, because you're used to doing everything forward as a wide receiver. Now you're doing everything backwards as a corner, and you got to learn that just really kind of overnight. I want to take my chances against that. I would try to jump out there and baptize him a little bit, joke with him a little bit, like, man, you might want to come back on this side. No, but it's gonna be interesting to see how it unfolds for him, man. But I think he'll be fine.
So he knows all the tricks, the wide receiver tricks that you would be playing. Yeah, I guess that would be.
He been in the meetings. He's been in the meetings. He know how we're trying to attack you and all that type of stuff. So it might help him out.
What are you hoping to learn more from, the offense or the defense, this training camp? What do you need to learn more from, I should say?
To be honest with you, I'm offensively, man. I think last year when you look at our defense, Patrick Graham had this defense rolling in a lot of games, man. They locked down a lot of teams, man, and we just could not score the football.
Mm-hmm. Former players always talk about how the NFL regular season, it's a war of attrition, right? It's a grind, it's a battle week in and week out, and training camp is a microcosm of that, but it's also more condensed, and it's getting ready for that regular season. So I'm curious, how did you approach training camp as you moved on through your years to adapt to it, to endure it? And what would you say to the young guys? Because this is a relatively young roster for the Raiders heading into 2025.
Yeah, well, for me, my regimen was always to destroy my body in the off season and take myself to those limits. And then when training camp came, I was in top peak shape. Because once you get to training camp, you're not really lifting heavy anymore. You're not really conditioning like crazy anymore. You know what I'm saying? You're getting yourself ready to go play a football season. So you want what you have done in the off season to carry on through training camp all the way in the season so your body can hold up. Obviously, you're going to do the little stuff, you're going to lift light, you're going to do all that type stuff to try to, bring your body back and recover. But, you really want to make sure that you train your body and get your body extremely strong, extremely in shape. So now when you come into the training camp, you're ready to go and your body can hold on until, the next off season. And that's what my plan was. So if those guys did that, kudos to them. For the guys that didn't do that, then now when training camp practice is over, hey, you got to get out there and get a little bit more conditioning. You got to get in the weight room and lift a little bit more to make sure your body can hold up for the whole season. Because training camp is brutal, but the season is even worse. You know what I mean? You could be dealing with some of these injuries or, body not recovering in season. And next thing you know, you got a game on Thursday. So you got to make sure you're ready to go.
Pete Carroll challenged the team at the end of minicamp saying, show up in the best shape of your life. And
sound like I could play for Pete, man.
And to your point, those that didn't, good luck. James.
And we're going to find out.
Yeah, I mean, so how quickly did you find out of the guys that did put in the work in the offseason and that didn't? And personally for you, when did you start feeling camp? Was it after day one? Was it after week one? Even for someone who's in the best shape of their life.
Yeah, when we started this podcast off, I told you no matter what you do in the offseason, you're going to be sore after training camp practice one. Once you, I wouldn't say one, first padded practice. Once you put your pads on, the first padded practice, you are going to feel sore. You're going to have to be in that ice tub because you have not been training with DBs pulling on you and holding on you and pushing you as you're trying to go catch the ball and all that, or pushing you while you're trying to run your route and all that. That requires different muscles. So you're definitely going to be sore. You haven't been training out there with a 300-pound lineman with his pads and shoulder pads on hitting you and all that if you're Max Crosby. So you're going to be a whole lot sore no matter what type of training you do. But when you do that training and you train like that, your body's just going to recover a whole lot more. And it don't take long, my man. We know from day one after the pads go on who put in the work in the off season and who didn't put in the work in the off season, strictly by what type of shape you are in. We know, and we'll give you that look like, get your work in, man. You know what I mean? Spend a couple extra time out there getting your cardio and stuff in.
All right, James, you made it very clear you don't miss training camp whatsoever. But I will have to ask you, do you have a favorite training camp memory?
To be honest with you, my favorite training camp memory was really just being around the guys, man. I don't think people understand, when you leave the game, you don't have that team atmosphere no more, man. Your brothers is gone. You're not able to just walk in the locker room cracking jokes with your brothers. My training camp buddy for so long, man, was Jordy Nelson in Green Bay. When I came to the Raiders, I was a true vet, so I didn't have a roommate. I was by myself. But just being out there with Charles Woodson, Maurice Jones-Drew, and all those boys, Justin Tuck, cracking jokes and all that. Those are the times you miss throughout the grind of training camp. Those are the times you miss, man, being out there with the fellas. So, if there's anything I miss and, I would go back for one more training camp practice full, man, it's just to crack some jokes with those dudes.
He is James Jones. He is a Super Bowl champion. He is once a Raider, always a Raider, and a Raiders TV analyst. James, thanks for jumping on the Raiders Training Camp podcast presented by SiriusXM.
Not a problem, man. Anytime.
All right, we will chat with you soon. Make sure to stay with the Raiders Training Camp podcast all training camp long, Raiders.com, and you can find us on Raiders YouTube as well. We'll see you later in the week after the Raiders put together a few practices to kick off training camp. I'm Vince Sapienza. We'll see you then.